Let's all bow and pray together. Father God, we want to pause right now before this meeting. And first of all, we want to say thank you for the blessings of a growing community, a community that's thriving, community led by such great leaders, people that are interested, want to be involved. And we give you the credit for that, Father. We thank you, Father, for continued economic increase, and we recognize that as your blessing. And so, Father, we pause and we ask you to help this group of leaders to lead wisely and to lead justly. Would you give them discernment in decisions that are being made? Father, we certainly pray for our community and all the citizens. We're praying, Father, that you would continue to bless them financially and relationally. We pray, Father, that you would protect our first responders, our city employees, and we are grateful, Father, for such a hardworking group. And again, Father, in all of those things, we give you the credit and acknowledge you with that. And so again, Father, our prayer is that there would be unity tonight as decisions are made, and that, Father, our community would continue to reflect the values of your word and your spirit. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Roll call.
Ford.
Here.
Moody.
Here.
Parks.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance with Vice Mayor Gillespie.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 7, public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, and awards. There is none. Item 8, citizens' opportunity to address council. There is none. Item 9A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute a mutual aid agreement between the City of Broken Arrow and Independent School District Number 3 of Tulsa County, Oklahoma, governing city employees' participation in the school district's volunteering staffing program. Trevor Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. The item that you have before you is a result of City Council's resolution number 1443 that they passed on January 18th of 2022. That was in response to the Broken Arrow School District's call for additional volunteers. And Council had responded by authorizing the city manager to work on a mutual aid agreement with the school, outlined the employment rules, and basically what you have before you is the results of that work, which formalizes that agreement with the schools. It does run through June 30th of 2022, and it outlines the employment status for the volunteers. They will remain employees of the City of Broken Arrow. It also ensures that any liability that might occur due to the volunteers' actions would remain with the city. It also has a section for the settlement of disagreements between the city manager and the superintendent, as well as the duration. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. I hear we have, I think, maybe 50 that have signed up so far. And so I'm pretty proud that we're one of the first cities to kind of think outside of the box and come up with a really cool idea. So thank you.
Absolutely, Mayor. And I sincerely appreciate the council's support of this, the efforts that Trevor's put in to put this agreement, and also for all the department directors and assistant city managers come up with this. Right now, I believe we have about 54 employees that have expressed interest, and I think we will probably have more. Michaela had sent out an email to you about the process we're going to be utilizing to try to consolidate everyone's time to get them through the much required HR processes. And so it's going to be interesting the next week or so getting our folks ready to go. And then hopefully, as we talked about in early February, maybe middle of this month, we should have some folks working. I want to thank Chief of Police for helping with the fingerprinting, which we thought might take a little bit longer. And so it's been a real collaborative to get to this point and getting everyone qualified, following all the protocols that the school district requires. So that way there's it's not do as I say, not as I do type situation. So I'm very happy with where we are right now, and we should be in the school district if needed, once again, and within the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Any further discussion? Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of nomination and appointment of Tommy Yardy to the Broken Arrow Convention and Visitors Bureau Board with a term expiring September 30th, 23. Lori Hill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Narmeen Shaker, a member of the CVB, recently took another position, and she has left a vacancy on the CVB board. Mayor Wimpy has asked for the nomination and appointment of Broken Arrow resident Tommy Yardy, and I spoke with Tommy this week, and he is willing to fill that unexpired term. So now we're just looking for a motion and approval, hopefully, for him to fill that unexpired position.
I make a motion we approve the appointment of Tommy Yardy to the Broken Arrow Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Tommy. Welcome aboard. Item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute resolution number 1445. A resolution of the City of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, approving the incurrence of indebtedness by the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority, entering into a term loan facility agreement with Closed Loop Fund LP, a Delaware limited partnership doing business as Closed Loop Infrastructure Fund. Cindy Arnold.
Good evening. This has to be tabled until after BAMA approves it, and
Okay.
then we'll come back.
Well, all that.
I need to memorize it by the next time.
Make a motion to table.
Second.
Motion and second. We can just replay the recording, right? Sorry. Item 9D, consideration, discussion.
wait.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Mayor. Hang
so
on.
sorry.
Got it.
Motion and second. Roll call.
You took me by surprise on that one.
I know. Me too.
So I need you all to vote on the table of that item.
Yes.
Awfully needy, Curtis.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of PUD 334 and BAZ 2102 Timber Ridge Residential. Larry Curtis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Larry Curtis, Community Development Director. Planning and Development PUD 334 Timber Ridge Residential is a proposed single-family residential and duplex development consisting of approximately 122 acres located south and west of the southwest corner of Albany Street and 37th Street. The property is currently undeveloped and unplatted. The Timber Ridge Residential PUD divides the property into 3 development areas. Development Area A encompasses the majority of the property and generally meets the requirements of the RS4 zoning standard. Development Area B contains higher density single-family lots, which are at the south half of the west boundary of the southern border boundary. Development Area C is proposed to be duplex development and is located on the northeastern edge of the property. In their meeting of January 13, 2022, the Planning Commission recommended by a vote of 5-0 of PUD 334 to be approved per staff recommendation. 2 residents completed the request to speak forms stating that they were in opposition to the development but did not attend the meeting. A total of 7 residents spoke in opposition to the PUD and rezoning. Concerns included increased traffic, use of substreets, flooding, and wildlife. It is staff's recommendation to approve the PUD and rezoning per Planning Commission recommendation. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Is there any discussion? We do have, I did receive a petition for, in opposition from 175 residents. So I do have that. And then we have some citizens wanting to speak. So, okay.
I'd like to hear from the those that are here to speak before I ask any other questions.
Sure.
So,
Mike Atzett. Hi, sir. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for letting me speak. My main opposition to this is Vancouver they're planning on opening it up through the Bend Tree addition. The development, as I understand it, was reading, is going to have roughly 840 or 880 residents in that, which would bring probably 1,600 additional traffic. And though not all of it would go through Bend Tree, a substantial amount would. I also am concerned about crime. One of the reasons I think we have been better off is because there's only been one way into Bend Tree and one way out. And anytime we have an issue, the police department seals it off. They come in, take care of what we need taken care of, and then we're out. I'm afraid that opening Bend Tree up, along with the additional traffic, would also open us up to more crime and that type of thing. But that is my main concern, is the opening up of Bend Tree, Vancouver as a through street. And also it's difficult to get out on county line from Bend Tree anyway. Okay. And any additional traffic is going to make that extremely tough. And one last item is, when we have a garage sale, Vancouver is a single lane through there, because the people park on both sides can as a residential area. And when they do that, it just makes it a single lane, and any additional traffic through there is going to just, I feel, is going to be a big problem. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gary Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with everything Mike said. Actually, I don't live very far from Mike. He's right across the street. But in 1987, we moved to Bend Tree. One of the main reasons we moved here was because it was a quiet community. There was very little traffic. There was one way in, one way out. We knew that that was a good thing for a community. And it was good for the kids. The kids play in the street. They ride their bikes. Very low crime, everything that Mike said. One additional point I would like to make, though, is with all the people that are planning to be living there, and that's this being a through street, and the high school, of course, is right across on the other side of 193rd. There's going to be a lot of young drivers, high school kids, 16 to 18. Obviously, they're going to see that's a shortcut from where they live to the high school. I have great concern that we're going to have a lot of young drivers trying to get to school on time, trying to get back home on time. And y'all know young drivers are not always dependable. And we can put traffic, we can put speed signs up, and we can do all that. But I fear that that's going to be a problem for our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tammy Ewing. Hi.
I am here representing Brenda and Alan Miller. They own the property of the 80 acres north of 161st Street, and their concern is with the density of this proposition. There's and I point to two specific reasons. If you look at this site plan in the real golden area, those are the duplexes. Okay. Typically, duplexes are great buffers. They might be good down by the mobile home park, but you've got duplexes drafted into vacant land on both sides. So they're concerned with what might be going in to the east and what the plan is there, because they're concerned about what you're ultimately going to be buffering with those duplexes and what intensity the council is intending for this entire area, because if you're wanting to increase the density of this property, you're gonna, we're sure it's a part of a big picture. So we're wondering about why the duplex is there. Second, they want to point to the reasons that you can approve a PUD, and the reasons given by staff are, number one, that this creates a additional or encourages additional open space, which it doesn't. If you look at the open space that's included in this, excuse me, you've got detention ponds and green trails under your electric lines. Well, you're not going to build under your electric lines, and you have to have detention ponds. So there's nothing in this plan that's green that wouldn't be in any plan for this property. So the other reason that is given is that it encourages more productive use of the land by increasing the density. So my clients are asking you to look at the density. Is this the area, the part of the city that you believe needs to be so dense that it's not even S1, S2, or RS1, RS2, RS3, or RS4, but it's basically a newly created RS5. It's a density that you don't even have, that you're doing by PUD. So they're asking you to look at the city, look at this area, and decide if this is really what you want, is a more dense use of residential property at this area. And they just believe that this is not the proper place for it, and they've asked me to come tell you so. And one of the reasons that's not on the list of 5 reasons in your ordinance why you can approve a PUD is the dedication of right-of-way to widen a street, which you would otherwise have to pay for. And I knew it would go red on me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? Thank you.
Debbie Gilcrease.
Get this off. Thank you very much for listening to me today. Obviously, I live in Bentry, and I do have a couple of concerns, and I want to bring them up to you. According to your comprehensive plan, page 88, one of the things that I kept hearing the last time when we were meeting with the Planning Commission was that this was going to promote some connectivity. And if you look at your plan, it says when feasible. This is not feasible. At this point in time, the amount of traffic that's going to come through there would turn this little old road from a regular city street into a collector street. And one of the things that the federal government says very clearly, when you look at some studies, is that the collector streets has a higher degree of fatality more than any other designation. So now you're going to turn this into a collector street with all these folks from all of these additions, or this addition that's going to be dense. And there's 0 lot line, there's additional duplexes. So this was yesterday morning. If you look back towards 61st Street, you'll see the rush of cars that come that way. And if you look in the other way, you see the rush of cars that come this way. Now, fortunately, or unfortunately for me, I didn't make it another 10, 15 minutes early so you could see that the high schoolers now move into that center lane. So you've got lanes coming this way, and you can still kind of see where there's a little bit of high schoolers left. So what you're actually doing is creating more of a problem. You're creating more of an issue for residents, and it's pretty dangerous. So what I would ask is that you do a study. Let's take a look before you vote tonight. I want to ask for a traffic study. I would love to say that, it's going to increase our unpredictability of our travel times. With the photos provided, you can see that it's going to likely to increase the collisions at that intersection. And if you also look at your plan, one of the things that is happening is that the amount of traffic that was considered in 2017, county line has far exceeded that. far, far exceeded that. So please take a look at that. Additional, their driver frustration is already high during some peak times. I said it before, you can't even get out when it's game time. Now, one of the things to back up with what my neighbor said, you're going to have a bunch of kids who see this as a cut through to the high school. So you're asking students who don't have their prefrontal cortex developed to be coming down that, because you are going to turn it in to a collector street. Let's call it what it is. Then additionally, I'd like to say that not only is it the increased frustration that we're all going to live with, but it's literally going to cause a higher level of air pollution as well. So please look into a traffic study before you agree to anything tonight.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here, Mayor?
Is the applicant here?
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Mark Caper. I'm with Wallace Design Collective, and I'm here representing developers. My address is 123 North Martin Luther King Boulevard. A couple things I want to point out beyond what Larry said, and I'd like to address a few of the comments, is I want to kind of point out the comprehensive plan. The reason why we have some of the more dense housing, and what we've done is we've rezoned the property, but it's all zoned agriculture. But if you look at the comprehensive plan, which is kind of like a city-wide master plan, basically the way that the colors work is the more intense the color, like the red and the oranges, the more intense the use, and the yellow is the less intense. And so in regards to the duplexes, we were looking at the northeast corner. We're looking at the higher intensities, not what it is now. It's vacant property now, but we know it's not going to stay that way. And that's something as a step down to the single family. Likewise, we have the mobile home park and the orange, the higher level use to the west, and that's level 3. We have higher intensity single family proposed over there. The rest of it is more of a typical RS4. There were some people that were a little bit concerned about us connecting to Vancouver. That's not before you tonight. That's not something that we really are insisting on as part of our rezoning and planned unit development. That's just something that the city requires as part of like a fire code. And this isn't what we'll go through now, but what we'll go through the platting process. We know the city requires connectivity. The Bent Tree does not meet the current codes, and we're just connecting to a spur that right now just goes into a pasture. And right now we're doing what I think is kind of obvious. We're connecting to that, even though it's been a long time since that spur road is done, and Bent Tree's been there a long time. The other thing I'd like to point out is per the density, we have less homes, less units proposed than what we're proposed per the zoning. So yes, we are adding green space, and it is in areas that we're going to have detention ponds, and then there's other overhead utilities, but we're providing amenities in those areas. And what we've learned is the older demographics and the younger demographics do appreciate a smaller lot and more amenities available to them. We always understand that there's concerns about traffic, there's concerns about pollution and things like that. And I do wish that we could just have huge arterial streets everywhere we go and build it and they will come. But the reality is in order to fund those, we need tax dollars, and do that we need rooftops. And this we think is a development that kind of provides that to a certain demographic that our client thinks that they can serve. Is there, I think that's all I had. Is there any questions you have for us? I have Nicole Watts, the engineer, here as well.
I am curious, with the duplex lots, I guess the proposed duplex lots are on the north end of the project, the northeast end of the project. Is that correct?
It is kind of fronting the eastern boundary on the north end.
Right.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be better suited as a buffer to the mobile home park as a transition buffer, as opposed to sticking it there. I mean, I'm not sure why you would stick it there as opposed to, and not have that as single family and then the duplex.
Well, we have level 4 and level 3 in that corner. And we're also looking at what's the comprehensive plan proposes and not what's there now. And we have just level 3 in the mobile home park. And I don't know if that'll be there, in the future or not, but we have to look at what the plan says. And so typically we like to have duplexes closer to the arterials, but I don't really know what else we could say besides that. That's just kind of how things laid out.
Okay.
What do you mean by, what's the difference between, because I noticed both A and B are considered RS4, but one is single family and then one is high density. What do you consider the difference between high density?
It's the size of the lots.
Okay. So they're all RS4.
It's all zoned RS4 with the PUD overlay. We alter some of the widths, and we take some of the densities and some of the open space requirements and move that around the subdivision into the green spaces.
Is it more like a patio home? Is that what you're envisioning, or?
It's just a smaller lot. It's still single family.
But it's smaller than an RS4 lot?
Yes, that one strip there by the mobile home park, yes.
Do we have that picture? That's up there. Is it in our packet?
We don't have this picture in our packet, do we?
Well, yeah, if you look at the design proposal.
Yeah,
it's
the
in there.
design statement.
I'm also a little confused, and this may not be a question for you. So I'm just a little confused because there was a discussion about county line, and this doesn't sit on county line, does it? This is half a mile away from county line, right?
Because of the Vancouver goes
Vancouver
through.
connecting, if it did.
If it did.
Yeah, that street.
Well, I mean, we can solve that by making that not, I don't know. I'm a little, the other thing is there's a lot of straightways through this, and I thought we'd discourage that, like runways.
Mayor, if I may. Okay. So in regards to the straightaways, what you see there, that is a wider collector street. And so that is going to be meeting the design criteria requirements for a collector, which allows, it'll be a wider street. So therefore that is permissible by our subdivision regulations.
Okay.
In regards to the comprehensive plan and the duplex lots, duplexes are a permissible or is an allowed or recommended use within the RS2 zoning, and abutting a level 3 and level 4 actually does coincide with our comprehensive plan because it has then the connectivity. It goes directly onto an arterial instead of being buried within the subdivision itself. In regards to the south side, the development of the smaller lots, the existing community subdivision, which is a platted subdivision, it is not a mobile home park. Right. It is its own neighborhood itself. People own their own lots as a part of that. They are much more narrow lots, as is typical of a mobile home type development. And so staff thought, because these lots that are abutting this new development are smaller, that these smaller lots would complement them as a part of the development pattern that is in that area. They are larger than the existing community villa, slightly larger than the existing community villa, but then they would transition out as a part of that. The tie-in on Deventry is, as you know, our zoning ordinance strives for connectivity and to ensure that we have good flow patterns throughout the entire area. In addition to that, right now, that the older subdivision there is not meeting current fire codes. Underneath our fire codes that were created and adopted in 2015 under Appendix D requires a minimum of 2 entrances for a subdivision that has over 20 lots, and that subdivision has over 20 lots. And I understand the concerns that are definitely being raised by our citizens for that concern for increased traffic, but it's also a benefit that if for some reason why Vancouver were to be blocked by an accident or something along those lines, and heaven forbid that there was a fire or there would be another route in order to gain entry to that subdivision. In regards to the right-of-way dedication, when all those, this area was subdivided about a year and a half ago, all the right-of-way has been dedicated along the arterial streets. And so along Albany and along 37th, all that has been dedicated to the public.
So which street is Vancouver?
It's not shown there. Vancouver is the one that goes on to the arterial.
Okay.
That's the connection point that's been shown there.
You're fine, thank
Yeah.
you. That's actually helpful.
Yeah, there you go.
So I guess to address the citizens' concern, Vancouver, you come off of 37th or 209th, depending on the language you're speaking, which is the same street. And you would come across, then have to drop down a few lots over and then back up.
Yes.
So it's not a straightaway through.
Right.
It would connect right to it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that it does connect. I'm sorry. What?
I misunderstood what you were asking.
It's not like just a straight.
It's not a
street.
straight shot, like you
Yeah,
get on
you'd
there
have
and
to
it's a
go.
straight shot
That's what
across
you're
to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You have to actually drive through the, I mean, there's still that other street in that is in with the where I guess the duplexes are suggested, the burnt orange.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll
That's
have
a straightaway too.
Yeah, again, a collector is being proposed for that type of development. Again, as we go through the engineering process, again, this is just just to let everyone know here is that this is just the use. This does not regulate the subdivision regulations that dictate the road structure or anything along those lines. You know, as we get past the zoning, if it was approved by council, we'll go through the engineering process and we'll have to meet all of our requirements of our design criteria. This conceptual site plan is not being approved. It's not locking in the development of how it has to look or how it has to be, or we have to be forced into allowing them to have straightaways in the sense, as long as they meet our subdivision code of having collector streets and residential streets as a part of that, then that's what will govern.
I think eventually something will go in here. I understand that. What does go in there, I would want to make it less desirable to be a flow through, if that makes sense. And the straightaways tend to make it, I can just shoot straight across through. And so I understand that concern. The other thing is, if we approve this tonight, I'm not a big fan of lots smaller than the RS4. They're pretty small as it is. I guess we do have an RS5 now.
We have a couple of areas within the city that are less than RS4 zoning classification.
Under a PUD or
Under a PUD.
Right, but we don't allow that under straight
Correct,
zoning.
because we do not have a zoning classification less than RS4.
Right. But will that be locked in, that what is less than RS4 is going to be the lots that are depicted here? Or the areas that's depicted here? Not necessarily that same. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what I don't want is them scattered throughout does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the development area is defined within the PUD, and so therefore those would be locked into those locations.
So how many properties or lots are proposed to being, or how many single family homes are proposed to being? I'm
But higher
asking
density.
the question. How many lots are going to be built, or how many homes are going to be built?
We're at less than 600.
Okay. Under straight zoning, what would be the allowable number of homes to be built?
Underneath straight zoning, 613 lots would be what could happen, and they're proposing 592. So
Just about 20 lots less than they could.
right.
So what's the benefit of the PUD in this instance?
Well, in this instance, because they are reducing the number of lots as a part of that, that is part of the benefit associated with that. And I agree, and as council knows, as a part of our restructuring of the zoning ordinance underneath what is open space, currently our zoning code does not clearly define what is meaningful open space, and that is something that we'll be looking into. But as we know in the ordinances that we have only have to meet one of those 5 criteria. And so therefore, open space is also being provided. The additional trails are being provided as a part of our GO plan. Things along those lines are being incorporated into this design.
So a couple concerns that I have, well, question first, that the duplex area, is it going to be like gated or a separate area? It just, the way those streets are going straight, it makes me think it's going to be like sectioned off or fenced off. But
We're not
is it just,
proposing gates.
okay,
It's
so
not
it's
gonna be
just 2
private
straight streets that go straight to Albany. I do have a concern about the number of houses, and I understand the reasoning for opening up Vancouver. I mean, I get that. But I mean, if you are one of those people living in that section right there, the logical place that you're going to go toward county line. I mean, that's just how you're going to drive. And so that does concern me when you have streets that aren't as wide and that's a lot of extra cars that'll be going through there. But I know that, I mean, that's something you said we could put in some sort of fire, whatever that's called, the crash gate, or.
We could,
Okay.
and that can be incorporated as a part of the PUD. Is that is recommended that a crash gate be installed at that location if council feels that that is what is compelled. The only, just to make council aware, is just the connectivity portion
Right.
of that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like the idea of the connectivity, but if we can make the connectivity with sidewalks and and not necessarily have it open
And
up.
that can still be done through that. Is that
Mhm.
the gate can go across the road, but the connectivity of the sidewalks can still go through.
Mhm. And what about so I see the detention areas, are there park areas within those?
I
Can't
would-
really see. Is
With-
that a plan?
It's not really designed and it's not drawn up, so you haven't seen it, but within the PUD document, we're proposing amenities such as park areas
Okay,
and trails.
okay.
Well,
I was just gonna, Kenny, when is proposed 209, like that widening supposed to be complete? I know it's gonna be a bit, but
A little bit. Right now, O&G has been moving the utilities. And as soon as they're done, which they're kind of behind schedule right now, but as soon as they're done, we are actually ready to move forward with one of the miles. And I believe we're actually doing the south mile first. So I would say this is still probably a couple of years out before we get there.
I have problems with it tying in there. What was it, Vancouver, itself. But going through that, I could see that it was built not to our standards. If you have a wreck at the intersection right now, you're in a world of hurt trying to get an emergency vehicle back in there. So the city couldn't allow that. So if you can come up, I'm for tying it together because of that safety factor, even though the people might not want that in there. But if you come up with a crash gate, if we can work that out, if it can both directions, because really you need it there to help the existing subdivision as well as you do the new subdivision as far as getting safety vehicles into there. It just seemed like a lot of lots. I understand that if you had conventional zoning on it, you actually could have a few more lots. It's what you're saying. I understand the duplexes because the property to the east is it's going to be multifamily or it's going to be commercial of some kind. And so that buffer, you're putting a buffer in place before that comes into existence, which goes along with the comp plan. So it just seems like a lot of lots as you look at them, but if you put the pen to the paper, so to speak, it's not. But I really have trouble with opening that street just from the traffic flow if we could still permit the safety issue going back and forth through there.
I think
Well, and really, when you say we could put more in there, really we couldn't because, duplexes are 2 houses, right? So we're still counting that as one. That's one lot. So,
I mean, I want to say that out loud because a duplex is two separate houses that are glued together.
Mhm.
So, and I'm in favor of duplexes. I mean, I lived in a duplex growing up and I think we need them in Broken Arrow. So I think people that are, I don't think it lessens the quality of a subdivision or things around it. But I don't see how we could possibly squash one more house into that area. I mean, it's like, it's very full. What's that little white area down in the high density? It's like that one, it's like right in the middle. It's like a little chicklet right in the middle of
Is
the.
that, is that a parking area?
There is, yeah, there is a parking area.
Okay.
Okay.
We do have parking scattered for,
I know. Well, I mean, the thing, I think the people who've spoken tonight in opposition to this, the thing that's important to remember, the two things that always come back and I always ask, how many lots can go in there versus how many lots go in there with the PUD? Because when something is zoned and it's straight zoning, if someone comes in and says, I'm just going to build that there and I'm going to submit my plan to the city, they don't have to do a PUD and they can build however many lots the zoning allows them to build. So you're actually building fewer lots, not a lot of fewer. So that's not, I'm not overly impressed by the reduction, as you
I
can tell
don't
from
think
our
we
picture.
are though, because of the duplexes.
Well,
I mean,
and-
I feel
and-
like it's the same.
And I'm not
difference.
even arguing that point. I'm just saying that, you could build that a number of houses straight zoning. So that's why I ask. But the other thing is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? Because when someone buys a piece of property and they go to use that piece of property, as long as it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, there has to be good reason not to approve a legal reason not to approve a proposed use. Going on record, I don't like this design, and I certainly would hope that they're listening because this design, all these straight streets and all that, I'm not liking it. And I would want to, whatever, if this were approved, I'd want to see a better design.
Remind the public and everyone else, and to help, hopefully the applicant has their ears on, is that the conditional final plat still comes before this council for approval. So hopefully people are listening.
And what I'm hearing from the homeowners that spoke objection, the biggest objection is that the cut through on Vancouver. That's what I'm hearing mostly. So.
I mean, if we could address the cut through, that's why I said that's a straight shot, then you drop down, but it's essentially a straight shot with two little right turns. And if you're wanting to cut it through, that would be a good way to do it, I suppose.
If council were to make a recommendation to require at this time a crash gate to be installed, that could be as a part of the nomination or recommendation. But
Is there a traffic study planned on this?
yeah, there will be, as this is a larger subdivision, this will be required to do a traffic study. But I do want to point out is that this traffic study is really going to show the impacts along the arterial streets and the connection point, and probably will recommend the connection be made onto Vancouver. But even at that study is that I would suggest that if council were to make a motion to approve this subject to a crash gate being put on Vancouver, I wouldn't lock it there forever. Like sometimes we put in the PUD that a crash gate shall be installed. And so a lot of people will interpret that meaning it'll be there forever. And it's like, well, it may come to be that Vancouver or the folks in Bentry start seeing it as an opportunity years down the road. So we want to make sure that, the law doesn't lock it in place to where it can never be reopened again. So.
And it would take it straight from their subdivision. If the traffic got so heavy on the county line, they have a straight shot back over to get on the, 209 or whatever that is, through there. So it'd be beneficial to them also in the long term. And I have to remind everybody, and I'm for it, but I'm still looking at being a crash gate. But you got to keep in mind that when those subdivisions are built, whether they're legal or they're illegal as far as today, when any time that street stubs, technically it's supposed to mean it's tying into another street somewhere. So it was built to tie in to the street, whatever that subdivision is next to it. I just think that's just so many lots, however you divide it up, that it come back through that one subdivision, which is not really conducive, I don't think.
Which that makes me think of another question. The street on the very north that's right underneath the high density that stubs into the west, what's the point of that? There's no street there,
Not now, but in the future.
but there's already houses there. So like in case there's not a house there?
There's not houses there, I don't believe, are there?
There's not?
No.
Isn't that
I think it's-
Villa?
Oh, well, no, it dead ends there, yes.
So
but
it dead ends.
Yeah,
So usually when I see a street that's like that, that's what
Yeah.
I think of. It's a stub street.
Right.
it could, I mean, and that's the thing is that, yeah, it could be a future sub, who knows, as we move forward. But because the distance is less than 150 feet,
Hmm.
that is allowed to continue per our fire code is to make that a non, or to basically have 2 additional lots
add
there versus
more
one.
lots.
Sorry.
My other, is that North 33rd? I think it means 33rd. I'm
33rd.
just making a joke. It's used the wrong. But North 33rd Street basically is the only entrance at this point to and from Timber Ridge Elementary, is it not?
Correct.
So is that street going to accommodate the additional traffic?
It
I
was
mean,
just-
if I was going to school there, my kids are going to school there, I'd be asking that question.
Yeah, it was designed as a collector street. Yes.
Will it connect into 33rd Street down there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there are 4 access points for the subdivision, aside from Vancouver, that traffic will have connection to, both, down to Kenosha, Albany, and to 37th.
I know we have parents that are already concerned about the traffic on 33rd
Mhm.
Street. So,
Yeah.
but by the time this is developed, we may have another access outside of Timber Ridge, but we have to keep that in mind that they're already concerned about the traffic on there. Has the school said anything? Like, have they made comments or?
No. And they have been made aware of all of our projects. So,
Okay.
yes.
Any further discussions or questions of the applicant? Seeing none, is there a motion? So we could make the motion and then requesting that Vancouver,
Requiring Vancouver to have a crash gate
okay,
to be installed as a part of the new development.
okay.
And a point of clarification, you're only concerned about the vehicular circulation, limiting that.
Yes.
You can put as many bike trails and
Yeah,
Sidewalks is
sidewalks
one
and
side.
bike trails are great. All right, I'll make that motion to approve PUD 334 BAZ 2102 with the recommendation that we add a crash gate at Vancouver. We have a motion, is there a second? Roll call? Item 9E, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to award the lowest responsible bidder, R&L Construction LLC, and approval of an authorization to execute a construction contract for Albany Street widening Phase 2 from 23rd Street to 37th Street. Travis Small. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors. Travis Small, Engineering Construction Department. What you have before you tonight is the RFA on the bid opening for Albany Phase 2. As you know, Phase 1 of the project has already been completed on East Albany Street. Phase 2 is going to pick up at 23rd Street and continue improvements all the way through 37th Street. We had 7 bidders that submitted bids on January 25th. R&L Construction LLC was the apparent low bidder, and they came in under the engineer's estimate. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Can we have any
I got a
discussion?
question. What other, if I can, Mayor, what other projects is R&L, have they done other projects in town?
R&L, they worked on Washington, part of the finishing of the Washington project, some of the concrete work that they had done.
That's right.
Just
Finishing,
clarify
the
that.
finishing of
I was
Washington.
gonna say,
Correct.
Correct. We took over.
After we took over. So there were portions of that Streets and Stormwater Department needed some assistance or would like, had some assistance on. R&L Construction did that part of the project, which was basically concrete work.
Were we happy with their work?
The construction department or division, excuse me, seemed to be very pleased with it.
I know we had to go back in and fix a couple of things around the culvert.
Yes, there were a couple of issues that needed to be readdressed, and R&L went back in there and took care of those.
Thanks, Travis.
You bet.
Yeah, and I think that contract was about $1.5 million. We were really pleased with them.
Any further discussion?
Make a motion to approve and award the lowest responsible bidder, R&L Construction LC, and approve and authorize the execution of a construction contract.
Second. Motion and second. Roll call. Item 9F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to award the lowest responsible bidder, Diversified Civil Contractors LLC, and approve of an authorization to execute a construction contract for New Orleans sidewalk improvements from Aspen to Elm.
Again, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Travis Small, Engineering Construction Department. Again, this is a long-awaited project. Engineering staff had worked on this project to improve the sidewalks or add sidewalks from Aspen to Elm and connect to the existing sidewalks that are out there now. So the project was designed, bid. We received 8 bids. They were opened on January 25th. The apparent low bidder was Diversified Civil LLC, and they came in at a total base bid of $390,217. That was under the engineer's estimate. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
I had brought up the question, and I'm going to vote yes on this, honestly, no matter how much it costs, because I'm so excited to have sidewalks between when you see people that are out pushing their mom in a wheelchair along that road every single day like I do. It's like we have to have sidewalks there. But there was a huge discrepancy between the high bid and the low bid. And so I had asked that question, and I got some answers back, which made sense. But it still seemed like, wow, that's a big difference.
To be quite frank, when I opened the bids, it was a little bit interesting to see the bid that came in as far as the parent low bidder. However, the answers that you received, I actually put those answers together. In talking with our construction division, I think the first answer that I sent you might be the answer that actually ultimately answers everything, which is that contractors can get hungry for a project every once in a while. And I think we got some very good prices in that apparent low bidder. And I think it reflects in that. If you compare the apparent low bidder to the next low bidder, there was a bit of a difference there. And it's the next low bidder is also somebody that receives a lot of our construction projects because they do tend to bid low. So it was something that opened my eyes when we received the bids, but I feel comfortable with what we see. Diversified Civil has done some work for us in the past. So I don't feel uncomfortable with this.
Hungry can be good as long as they don't forget anything.
Yeah.
That's correct. Absolutely. And our construction division will be overseeing that and making sure we get it right.
Don't have a
I'll
lot of
make a
change
motion to
orders.
approve.
I'll second the motion, and I would say that I agree with Counselor Gillespie, but when you can save $100,000, I'm not going to blink at that either.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Now people will be able to walk
west and go to the new South Broken Arrow Library that's going to be going in soon. So,
Yes, ma'am.
well. All right. Item 9G, consideration, discussion, and possible approval for the standards design of wayfinding signage in the Rose District. Charlie Bright.
Good
Bring
evening,
us
Mayor.
good news,
Vice.
Charlie.
What's that?
Bring us good news.
I hope I am. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Charlie Bright with the Engineering Construction Department. As part of the fiscal year 2022 budget, this council approved $50,000 in sales tax funding for wayfinding signage in the Rose District. After that was approved, we met with City Manager Michael Spurgeon, and he stressed the importance of this project and how important it is for the district, but he also stressed an emphasis on needing to highlight parking in the Rose District. So it's kind of a twofold. We need to highlight our wayfinding in certain locations, but we really need to start directing our patrons and our visitors that aren't familiar with the city to where our public parking lots are. That became a big deal because we got a group of downtown vendors together, and they expressed, one, that nobody knows to go to where public parking, because as you guys know, we don't have a major parking problem downtown. We have a parking awareness problem downtown. There's a lot of parking that's not used that well. And so the vendors said, one, we're not directing people to public parking very well. And then two, when we are pointing people to public parking, it looks like we're pointing them to the private parking lots. And they're also getting upset about that because you got people parking there, turning around, walking over to the restaurant, taking their parking spot all day. So with that, we have on December 21st of 2021, this council also voted to approve a contract with FSGS Signs for them to help us design the signs. And then they will also be the ones that fabricate them once we get an approved design. Our team has worked with them over the past month or so and we went through a lot of designs and we came up with one we really, really liked. The team consists of myself, Maddie Shield, who's part of my team, Mike Van Schoik, who retired, and then Brent Brasfield and Jennifer Rush, who've been a big help on this project. So going into that, as you see on the screen, the picture of the design, we all unanimously agreed we really like this one. The reasons being is kind of the outline and silhouette has that architectural feel of a Main Street feel, but we also feel like it brought an urban flair to it when we break it up and we have the divisions. And then most importantly, we're bringing people's eyes and attention by changing the color, but it's not a bold change, but we're bringing their eyes to where public parking is as the primary focus. So that is why we all like this design, and we were recommending it for the new design downtown, but I'm happy to answer any questions or
I had one question.
critiques. Yes, sir.
A lot of time, money, effort, whatever went into designing a Rose District design. Whether you like it or not, a lot of time, money went into it, and it's emblazoned on our sidewalks and all that. That's pretty. I like it, but that's not the design, the rose. Are we putting that, or are we, and if not, I mean, I just want uniformity.
Understood. I'll have to clarify because I thought when we were going through this, and I don't remember who told me, I thought that they said that was that's posted somewhere, that we keep that as like the official rose. But I think the other part is we did look at that pattern and we had trouble seeing it on street signs, like the way it showed up. So I think it was visibility. For the purpose of this exercise, I can print those on signs for you and get them shown to you.
I would prefer that because I don't want to vote on this if that's the final design without seeing what the other looks like, because it's just consistency. Does that make sense? We have spent a lot of money to develop the other, I mean, and I don't even know that I particularly like it, but that's what we've adopted. So
understood. I know we're aware of the symbol. We had it shown on several designs early on, and I think it had trouble visually showing through the signs. And so, but we can work on ways to make that work. Yep.
Can we vote on it just with the knowledge that we'll look at it? I mean, does this?
Well, I would make a motion to
final.
approve this subject to final approval with
that sign.
With the, does that make sense?
With the rose. Yeah.
Just making sure.
Because I hate to have done all that and then it'll be mixed messaging in my.
So I'm having to go back in memory through a lot of conversations we had. I think the other big reason why is we went to just a rose was twofold. One, because of the text. We wanted the text. I think the symbol you're talking about says the Rose District over the top of it. One was the text. With it being a smaller symbol, it wasn't eligible. Like you couldn't read it on a street sign unless we blow it up and make it bigger to where it kind of overwhelms.
I don't care about the text. It's the
actual rose.
Yes.
Okay.
And plus we have roses on our street signs there. Is that is that the rose that you're talking about?
Well,
That
the
consistent rose?
design-
Yeah, that, I would think that they would have used because on the street sign, there's a rose at the top, I thought.
Yes, Rose.
I think,
Yeah, that.
which one are you referring to?
That.
Yeah, so the text, I know
Yeah.
one big conversation we had, and the reason being was the text was not visible in the design.
And
we did.
I can
So we can
understand
take
that, so
that off.
take the
Yeah,
text
take
off.
the text off.
But I mean, I think there should be consistency. So we're either going to change it to that
But then that's 3 color.
and
Agree, absolutely.
I mean, you can make it.
So can we just, let
Like,
me
just
ask you
make
this,
it
because
black
I'd rather, and I understand the vice mayor and council members' concern. I would rather just table this and let us bring it back to you and show this, because I know, and I appreciate the wanting to go ahead and approve it subject to, but I'd be more comfortable if we just waited for 2 weeks and brought it back and showed you in advance and then had that discussion, made a final decision.
that's fine. I just,
I do agree with the city manager, because I am worried how the colors are going to change the overall color scheme of the picture. Because I don't know if the colors will blend well with the black, white, and blue that are there. So we may have to make some other adjustments.
Yeah, because if I end up sending this year out, you're going to respond back to me, and that's like polling, and I'd rather just wait 2 weeks and let Charlie put stuff together.
and that's fine. I'm not trying to put a kink in things.
No,
but
I think it's a
thought
good
about it,
point.
I thought, I
It's a great-
mean, either, and if we're going to change to a different rose design, then I think that needs to be consistent.
It's a great point.
This is we've done a lot here, and I agree with the consistency. I really liked the colors minus the rose, and that's some good points. So I'd rather just table this for 2 weeks and make sure we got council's approval so we can move forward.
It's good.
We can work on it, and we can try to, I mean, I think the idea behind black and blue is obviously blue is your standard parking color, but black keeps that Main Street feel. So we'll try to hang on to that as much as we can, and we'll play with the design, and we'll get something.
Yeah.
That's a lot of confidence.
Well, you saw that net position. 2013, right before I left, made that presentation.
Yeah.
Eventually, when it came out, big enough thing.
Yeah, bitch would have piggyback. Yeah.
With my presentation there, Johnny's the only one that's heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody else around here.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, you did. We were at 24.8 in December of 2013. February of 2022.
Yeah.
Plants don't go up and go adding money.
The motion was.
Yeah. Right. He could just call Bama or.
Gavel had the power. Just call Bama to out.
Yeah, because the council meeting's gonna stay in recess until we come back.
Okay. Okay. He said I had the power to gavel, so I did. Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Ford,
Here?
Udi,
Here.
Parks, Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items from the consent agenda to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion
Thank you.
and a second.
Second.
Roll call. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentations, or recognitions or awards. General authority business, item 6A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute Resolution 1444. A resolution of the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority approving the incurrence of indebtedness by the authority to enter into agreement with Closed Loop Fund. Cindy Arnold.
Good evening. The Closed Loop Fund provides investments for cities and counties to help with the recycling programs. If you remember back in 2020, we partnered with Closed Loop for a $2.6 million loan, which helped with the recycling carts and the poly carts and trucks. Well, in order to be more efficient, we have ordered 5 additional trucks that you approved a few council meetings ago. And Closed Loop would like to partner with us again. So they have given us another $1 million at 0% interest. And what they've done on this loan agreement is they took the 2.6 million, we've already paid some down, and are adding the $1 million. So our normal debt service before was about $370,000 a year because it's only for 7 years. It's going up to $530,000. So we appreciate the Closed Loop Foundation, and staff is recommending approval of Resolution 1444 and authorize its execution.
So both loans are 0% interest.
Correct. And then what they did, instead of doing 2 different loans, one for 7 years, they just combined the 2.
Make a motion to approve and authorize the execution of resolution number 1444.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Remarks by governing bodies? Remarks by city manager?
There was one thing.
Oh, sorry.
We have a school board election on next Tuesday.
February
right?
8th. Yes.
And is it zone? Is that what they call it?
Zone 2.
Zone 2. So I just wanted to remind everyone, if you are in zone 2, to go
Union
out.
and Broken Arrow. Both
And
have
Union and
Zone
Broken
2.
Arrow, I'm sorry. Yes, you were correct. Both zone 2. Get out and vote.
And only the people who are the residents in zone 2 can vote, unlike
Right.
the city council meeting. So,
Right.
just a reminder.
Correct.
Okay. City manager?
I have none.
None. Okay. There is no executive session. Do you have a
Make a
motion?
motion to adjourn.
A motion? And a second? 2 seconds. Roll call. All right. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order. Roll call.
Ford,
Here?
Udi,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and second. Roll call. There are no presentations. In general authority business, item 6A, presentation, discussion, and possible acceptance of the 2021 Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Annual Report. Jennifer Conway.
think I lost feeling my legs. Good evening.
Hi.
Our wonderful Amber is going to pass out to you this already from
Thank
a
you,
public
Amber.
perspective. It has been posted in the
you,
packet,
Vanna.
but we wanted to first give you a little bit of sample of what we've produced this year from Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation. So you'll find in your packet is our brand new Grounds for Development, which is a tool that Jennifer and her team utilize to promote, to attract retailers and developers to our community. New this year, we've added barcodes. So we've really we printed a limited number of these, but you actually can get this card and hand this out when we're recruiting retailers, and they can scan it and have access to this entire packet online as we move to digital. Also in there is your presentation, so you don't need to take very many notes. And our annual report, which many of you may have received that at our chamber annual meeting. So I'll get started on my presentation today. Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak to you. I'm here officially in a capacity our contract requires 2 times for me to report to the council on our activities of the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation. And so today we pushed it a little bit. Normally our contract states December. We're pushing it to January, but now February, to have full metrics for you. A lot of our things take a couple weeks to close, so we can have good numbers of how 2021 looks for Broken Arrow and for the Broken Arrow EDC. It is absolutely, as I mentioned at our annual meeting, a privilege to be able for the chamber and the EDC to serve the citizens and this body, as well as the city, to basically what our mission is to create wealth, jobs, and economic growth through the creation, attraction, and retention of business and talent in our city. And I forgot I'm the clicker. As you can see on this, I know you can read all those words. We have a lot that we do, and economic development is a team sport. And so as we do this, we have an incredible team that has been assembled in Broken Arrow to accomplish that work. First, I do want to recognize my board chair for 2021, Greg Graham, and our entire board of directors, many in this room who serve on it, for your leadership and commitment and time and money to grow this community. Second, I'd like to recognize the world-class team, TED team, that the city manager, Michael Spurgeon, that you've created. You've assembled as our partners, the assistant city manager, Norm Stevens, our economic development manager, Jennifer Rush, and her team, Steve, Brent, Aaron, and Lori. The BADC absolutely loves working alongside each and every one of you and making and building the best Broken Arrow we can. And finally, I do want to publicly thank and recognize those who I have the pleasure of calling my BADC work family: Vincent Snelling, our economic development manager, Amber Smith, who is our workforce development manager, and Scott Thompson, who is our office manager, who's not here tonight. Top notch, amazing. What you see is their product every day. And they are the most passionate and dedicated servant leaders that I have been able to serve alongside. I do want to publicly thank Darla Heller. Much of this work that we're looking at is the result of her many hours of her vision and her passion as our Vice President of Economic Development in 2021. So we want to, all of us have been working diligently to be a good steward of the resources that we have been given in rowing in the same direction with this servant's heart. But I am going to hone in on tonight and summarize the key accomplishments and the associated economic metrics for the area of BADC's responsibility, which as you see here on the screen. We focus, which isn't on that side, research, recruitment, entrepreneurship, small business development, talent recruitment, workforce development, business expansions, BRE, largest employers in manufacturing, and then also generating private investment in our community. We have the shared responsibilities with the city TED team, which are the Innovation District, Infrastructure Development, Advocacy, City Promotion, and our small business retailers. Now here you're going to see a snapshot of what 2021 looked like. We're going to dive a little bit deeper in the activities that were associated with this, but staying a little bit higher level for 2021, you'll see that
our companies, so we surveyed our companies. This is not all encompassing, but those businesses that we were able to reach and have responses from, they reported $36.8 million in 2021 in private investment. 369 new primary jobs announced. Now, you know that obviously because that 369 primary jobs just resulted in an economic impact of 28 million. So that's why we see the retail growth. That's why we see those side jobs that happen because of those primary jobs that the BADC works to recruit. Unemployment rates fell to 2.2% in comparison to 5.5% at the beginning of 2021. And that came from 13.5% during the worst parts of 2020. Companies continue to hire. So when we look at the full job postings in 2020, there were 9,429 open jobs in Broken Arrow. For 2021, that was 11,861 unique job postings to work in Broken Arrow. It's pretty amazing when you think about that. Looking at our city economic indicators, we had 92 commercial permits that were issued to new businesses locating in BA. That's an 80% increase over 2020. We have 825 residential housing starts. Sales tax, which I know all of you watch this closely, sales tax increased by 12% and use tax by 19.7% year over year in 2021. And the exciting thing is we all know that that's a continued growth trend for Broken Arrow. Interesting enough, some side notes here that aren't my notes is Broken Arrow is expected to have a population growth rate of 1.36% in comparison to Tulsa's 0.37%. Broken Arrow's median household income is expected to grow 9% over the next 5 years. So that's great.
Jennifer.
Yes.
For the non-economic development nerds, what does BRE stand for?
Business retention and expansion efforts. So that's, the majority of actual job growth in a community happens from retaining your jobs and expanding your existing businesses. So a key part of what we do is creating those relationships and work hard to do that. That's not just a local thing. That's oftentimes focusing on headquarters, focusing on, you say flight safety. Their headquarters now in Ohio. Alfa Laval is in Sweden. I mean, we have being able to make sure that they know that Broken Arrow cares about those businesses and we want them to stay here, and we'll do whatever we can to help, that we're dedicated to help them, and which we've definitely as a community shown that through flight safety and the TIF and what we did for that. And that continues. That's a great example of some announcements this year. Flight safety. This is public, so I'm not, it's been in the paper, so in Austin, but they closed one of their facilities in Austin, Texas, and actually moved it here in Broken Arrow. So it's exciting to see them look at us when we make that investment from an economic development standpoint. That says something to the headquarters, and they look at us for a place to grow. And so we in our work, and this is evidenced in your monthly report, we hone it down to 7 key areas that we do our business. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper in what EDC's accomplishments in 2021 were in these specific areas. So from our business retention and expansion, or BR&E area, is we had 432 businesses that we went indoors with and met with them one-on-one in 2021. Part of that was our BA Blitz, which was a great success. Thank you to each of you, the City Council, the Chamber. We all visited 151 companies in just 2 weeks. In those visits, in our overall annual visits with our companies, 16 told us that they are considering expansion and growth. That would be 713 new jobs. We add those 713 new jobs based on what their average wage they reported to us. You think about that 28 million and that 369, what type of impact that has when we add those jobs. But an estimated capital expenditure investment in our community of 125 million. Great example too of BR&E efforts. Our company SimStar was looking, their lease was up, they needed to move, and we found them, actually it was across the street, but we found that building for them and made sure that we kept SemStar right here locally, which they announced new jobs and they're continuing to grow. So it's exciting to be able to serve our businesses like that. We had a social media campaign highlighting 30 of our manufacturers in Broken Arrow, along with a manufacturer appreciation and awareness. And we implemented a new customer CRM system that helps us with BRE tracking and efficiency, and that's in partnership with the TED team. And so we share data. We can all see who we're visiting, where we are. We be able to put notes in there when we meet, so we don't have to duplicate efforts, or one of us has to think about sending a long, lengthy email to communicate what our businesses are doing and how they're expanding. But that is kept confidential. Our new business attraction action that we did, we responded to 43 requests for proposals. So just in comparison, it was only 21 requests for proposals. So have any of y'all ever seen a sample RFP that we do? Y'all, I think we've showed all of you. So when a business is looking to expand, and the fonts are not very good up there. Sorry about that. When our businesses are looking to expand, or businesses externally, we get a request. We've responded to 43 for 2021, and actually had 5 site visits of external companies looking to relocate to Broken Arrow. When that's great when we're up against the entire state. So not that it is a team sport, we're all on the same team, but they are looking statewide on those RFPs and even nationwide, really. We're not just up against other places in Broken Arrow, we're up against other places like Texas and other states. And we worked, exciting thing, we facilitated a study on the need of an esports arena, and I'll be reporting to you about that coming soon. We worked to gain site-ready certification for Creek 51 Business Park. So what that does is, that means right there, site consultants can look to that property and know it is ready to go, and it's going to be a lot less work to start a new build there. So we're excited about that. And we, right now, if you look at what we have on the books, we have 11 active attraction projects in development right now. We never know if any of them could come to fruition, but we're actively working on them, which could result in 845 new jobs with an estimated CapEx of $122 million. Our newest area of concentration work, which was why Amber joined our team, is a workforce and talent development. That's much, we're sitting and doing this because of your investment in the EADC. Our highlights from that, so when you look, this is 338. This is not counted in that 400. We're not double counting. There's no special math. I'm an accountant, so I wouldn't do that. 338 companies visited specifically on the needs of workforce development. It's a lot for Amber, she's busy. 110 job referrals to companies. So we were referring individuals to a company to fill a spot. 456 job seekers directly engaged through our portal and our actions. We had 22 actual direct job placements. So 22 positions filled because of our work. We had a manufacturing career awareness, reached 3,000 students at Union and Broken Arrow in one day. We're excited about our healthcare awareness day that we'll be doing in April. We launched our intern program, Route to BA, as well as a veteran hiring support services that Amber's been doing. We executed 2 career fairs with 200 job seekers and 70 companies. On our research, admin, and advocacy, there's a lot here, not going to go much in, but you saw the grounds for development. And we were recognized by the Oklahoma State Chamber as Partner of the Year by facilitating chambers in our transportation policy in the state. Our grounds for development, not that specific one, but the one last year, did win an award at the IEDC, which is International Economic Development Council. So that is a top peer economic development organization in really the nation and the country. I mean, that's the same thing, in the world, sorry, international. Okay, and we have Innovation District Fund Development and Entrepreneurship. We all know you joined us on the best practices trip to Greenville to help research our Innovation District. The BADC did assist in negotiating the purchase of the 90 acres for the Innovation District. We started, Vince is heading this up, our Entrepreneurship Meetup. So our first time we had about over 20 entrepreneurs come together and began to talk about what the challenges are in entrepreneurship, how we can better serve them as a city, how can we encourage for more entrepreneurship and even them themselves starting more business. So it's been great. We have now had 2. We had a second one a couple weeks ago, and we will continue to make that have that Entrepreneurship Meetup, but also developing resources that specifically serve our entrepreneurs. We joined and participated in NSU's Entrepreneurship Advisory Committee. We were working with NSU and Broken Arrow Public Schools to create opportunities to bring awareness to entrepreneurship. So there is a program that we're looking to possibly start that our students with NSU can learn about being an entrepreneur. And that's kind of it inspires you to be an entrepreneur, teaches you business plans, it teaches you how to from start to finish, to take an idea and bring it to fruition. So it's an exciting program to inspire our high school students so that we can create more Broken Arrow entrepreneurs. And there's so much more in this area. 2022 is going to be huge for this specific slide. Now, finally, like I just mentioned, what's even more exciting, I think these are incredible numbers, given that you're just still coming out, or whatever we call where we are right now in today's world, in or out of the pandemic, or learning to adapt. But it's just to sit back and look about where we've been as a community, both in a leadership and an economic development standpoint. I know as all of us team, it's almost hard to keep up with the calls, to keep up with the growth, and but we have the right team to do it across the board. So what we're going to focus on in 2022 and moving beyond, Amplify BA is actually the title of our capital campaign that the EDC is embarking on. We're looking to raise additional funds to, as I mentioned, there's more to do, and more to do really needs more money to do more. And so we want to be able to maximize the taxpayer investment and really multiply that by adding private investment with that as well. Because when what you're doing in building infrastructure and building a greater Broken Arrow does benefit the private sector, absolutely. It is truly a symbiotic relationship. So we'll be driving the Innovation District Analysis, Vision and Development. Our STEM Workforce Center of Excellence and Talent Recruitment will be continuing. That was one of the top things that we have saw in our roundtables, is talent attraction and creation is absolutely paramount to the success of our businesses. Oklahoma is not producing enough bodies to meet the demand of our existing and our growing businesses. So we need to think outside of the box. And so the EDC will be taking that as far as looking at how are we going to recruit people, not just growing that talent pipeline and developing that talent pipeline through workforce development, but really looking to is a unique talent recruitment. So there's a lot of things that we can do in this area that we'll be bringing to you over the next couple of years, but it's going to, we really want it to be targeted. We're not looking for a shotgun approach, but we're going to focus on some key specific industries and types of individuals that we want to recruit. So we're filling our high demand sector, possibly opportunities for further growth. We will, and that's where the intention and unique research and planning for Broken Arrow's future. Strategically plan next year's for the capital campaign that we're working on. And, as I mentioned, the couple things that are opportunities, there's not challenges. I look at them as opportunities. One of the major opportunity for us is continuing to encourage the building of inventory. Jennifer and I were just talking this week. It's we don't have enough inventory to meet the demand of people who want to come into this community. And that's just not just in the housing, that's in a business perspective. And so you almost just can't build it fast enough, whether we're talking about housing, retail, or manufacturing, or Class A office space. We have incredible opportunities to get a little bit ahead of the game so that we can have some assets to recruit. When businesses are looking to relocate, even out of state, they're wanting to do it now. They're not looking to wait 18 months to 2 years. So in order to be Creek 51 is a great asset, but having some more physical buildings even on that we can promote would be wonderful. So we need to look at that further development in the Rose District as we continue to look for ways to increase daytime traffic to support what we're building there. And as I said, being strategic and working and solving the challenges of workforce. So if we cannot prove as a community that we can solve that problem for employers, that's top on their list. And I know that because of our size, we're very much Goldilocks, and the partners that we have at the table through the city, through our education institutions, we have some incredible opportunities to be able to build a program in just a matter of months. So having such a responsive local community is one of our greatest assets. When we met with site selectors in the other day in Dallas, and one of the key things I said that we have Oklahoma as an asset. So we are in Dallas, so they're familiar with the Dallas market. One of the major assets that the Oklahoma and I believe Broken Arrow has is our size and our responsiveness. So we're still very hungry to have you, whereas some other faster growing states, they don't even respond to phone calls of people who want to move to their community. And when I say people, I mean businesses, I mean major employers. So as we kind of swoop in and give them that attention that they deserve, and provide ways for them to grow their business here, I know we're going to continue to flourish in Broken Arrow. So I'm excited about 2021 was wonderful. We made it. It was some incredible numbers. But I know when you look at those potential numbers, 2022 is going to be pretty fantastic, and looking from there and beyond. When you just think about what we can just do with just the Innovation District, it's going to put us on the map like never before. We're truly going to be, we're going to be somewhere where people are going to visit and come look at us. They're going to go to the Rose District, and then they're going to the Innovation District. They'll stop at New Orleans and Square and have a piece of pizza, and we'll have a wonderful community that we do. So thank you again. It's our team's pleasure to serve you and to serve the taxpayers of Broken Arrow, and we appreciate it. I'll take any questions.
I just want to mention my microphone on. With regard to the Innovation District, Jennifer and I talked late last year about what the next step should be. And as you've all heard a little bit, I think at the time when we were discussing this, and we've talked to the EDC, and as you know, the EDC is the proverbial tip of the spear for the city in terms of out there in front with regard to the Innovation District, was to put together a request for proposal to look at actually finalizing the design of what we want there, and then finding someone that can go out and nationally market what is decided as recommended by the EDC and approved by the council. And so I think the best way to go about this was to get requests for proposals, which Jennifer and her team has done. And so what I'd like to let you all know tonight is that she and the chairman, Jennifer Jezik, are going to be contacting each of you and setting up the 221 meetings to actually look at the requests for proposals that they've received, which are very comprehensive. And obviously, we have to come before the council because there is a cost to that, and we have the funds to do so. But I think it would be best if we set it up to where you hear directly from the chairperson and Jennifer. I'm in full support of looking at the RFPs. I have an idea of which one I think would be best for us, but I'd rather you all see those, and then we can have that discussion in public at probably a meeting in March. And the second reason why I like this is because this moves things forward in terms of getting to that point where we engage someone to take the ideas. And I'm going to ask Jennifer to close it out here on this and her ideas, and just let you all know what she thinks. But I think it's the best way to get that conversation going, and then come back and have a full discussion with the authority.
Thank you. Well, and hot off the press, I haven't had the chance to tell you, the EDC filed for a grant which to help us with this research phase with the Department of Commerce. And I was just notified we won this grant. It's not huge, but it'll help a little bit alleviate some of that research, but it's right. What we're doing is right in line with the Department of Commerce is wanting communities to do. So once again, we're at the forefront. I'm pretty sure Darla submitted that application before anyone else submitted theirs. So we're excited to be able to do that. But, when we, as a team, we have an incredible team, but when we're looking at building out 90 acres, and it needs to be built out right. And if we don't do it intentionally and with research and with people in the industry, developers who do this for a living, it can start suddenly become piecemeal before you know it. And so the team talked about, all of us, the city and the EDC, to engage in a consultant to really maybe bring somebody in to just help us write an RFP so that we can get out there and think nationally when it comes to developers. We have incredible developers locally and they can compete, but also looking at when 90 acres is a lot, and it's not just housing, and it's not, I mean, when you're talking about an entire truly mixed use, making sure that we get that equation right, running the numbers of how many office spaces do we need? What is the demand for Class A office space right now? How much advanced manufacturing do we need to put in there? What kind of retail do we need? And just from that whole perspective. So we've engaged two companies came back with really strong proposals about helping us craft an RFP, do the research, facilitating an RFQ process, and then allowing for us, and then helping us promote to their connections nationwide to developers who would be interested to come in and help put their own private investment money and partner a true private-public partnership in building out the innovation district. And we really believe that this will make sure that it happens at a much faster pace, because we're developing and it's going through fully in the process. So it's not just always concepts, but we're looking at developing large chunks with single developers at one time. But then again, though, it can change, right? So that's the whole wonderful thing about the RFP process is if someone else comes before us and plants a vision and wants to be a partner with us, we're going to assess all of that at once. So.
Jennifer, thank you. You guys have done an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also point out that's probably the most thorough presentation we've gotten from the EDC in many
Ever.
years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Are there any remarks from governing body members?
Excuse me, Mayor, I believe
Oh.
we need to have a vote on accepting that
Oh,
report.
so sorry.
I make a motion to accept the 2021 Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Annual Report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Okay. Motion passes. Any remarks by city manager?
Let me just echo the comments of the authority, Jennifer Conway and your team. That was a great presentation. It's a pleasure to work with you every single day. And I consider we're very blessed to have you. And also the fact that you work so well with Jennifer Rush and her team. I know you're out there every single day trying to grow our economy. And so I'm very grateful and thank you for all that you all do. That's all I have there.
There is no executive session. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and second. Roll call. All right. Call the Broken Arrow City Council meeting back into order.
Regular session.
Our regular session. Yes, sorry. And then we have an executive session.
Mayor, I think we needed to handle 9C first.
Oh, that's right, because Cindy,
Left out.
there she is. So sorry.
That
She was
seems so
waiting
long
so
ago.
patiently.
There's a lot to keep track this meeting.
Yes.
Okay. In and out. So let's see. Yes, item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of authorization to execute resolution 1445.
As you know, the city must approve any debt incurred by the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority. BAMA approved Resolution 1444, authorizing the execution of the long-term facility agreement with Closed Loop Fund for an additional $1 million. Resolution 1445 approves the indebtedness and waives the competitive bid process. Staff recommends approval and authorize Resolution 1445.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
The motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
So we have an executive session.
I'd make a motion for a brief recess to clear the room for executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. I make a motion to take a nap. I'm tired.